This is kind of like a comment someone replied, and I'm going to respond to it in video format. I'm going to send him the link once it's uploaded, but like it's not just for him to hear, y'all can hear it too. You don't have to see his name or anything if he doesn't want to show his name, but we are looking at the problems, we are proposing solutions, and we're fighting to make them realized. I'm sorry, Green New Deal was never going to get passed, so no, you were fighting to make them realize. You were proposing a solution that would never pass. You need something not like the Green New Deal, I'm sorry. And I'm not just talking about the Green New Deal, I was talking about everything. In fact, life is like that. You want to be something big, we have to take the smaller steps to get there. And I'm sorry, focusing on smaller things will make much more of an impact than trying to look at the big picture right away. And focusing on the smaller picture will make change a lot faster than the big picture. This is a continuation of the video that I made earlier where everyone needs to hear. I do not want to see the world burning or my house being taken up by extreme weather. Well, you won't be. Okay? Because first of all, climate change is mostly natural and humans have a minute part of it. And America has an even smaller part in it. In fact, the biggest human contributors, the human factor, is small enough as it is, and it's raining outside, but it's small enough as it is. That's the noise. It started raining out of nowhere, okay? But that's a small enough as it is. And the biggest human factor? China and India. Okay? China and India are the biggest human contributors. If all of America goes to net zero, it would do almost nothing. And the only thing that will happen is our economy will be destroyed and America would slowly devolve. Alright, the best way to do it is you yourself live. Because I'm sorry, all these people, most of the people I see trying to help the environment, especially trying to politicize it and everything, they themselves don't live in that kind of life. They themselves live in a way that doesn't help at all. They do more to harm the environment than help. They say people should take more trains, yet they refuse. They fly. They say they need to do electric cars and smarter vehicles, yet they do big SUVs, even when they have the money. Okay, even when they're able to, they don't. Now, I don't want to raise my kids in a society where people are allowed to be racist. So you want to be a fascist? I'm sorry, that's the only where people are allowed to be racist? I'm sorry, we're not. You want to be a fascist then? I'm sorry, being racist is wrong. Okay, we live in a society where racism is wrong. I don't know what you're talking about there. No. The right is anti-racism. The left's actually pro-racism in so many ways, but they claim to be anti-racist. There's no pro-racism, really. Racism is seen as wrong, so I don't know what you're talking about, other than we need to be fascists and make racism illegal. Corrupt politicians for the next 50... I'm sorry, you'll never have not corrupt politicians. So the politicians will always be corrupt. It's just life. The only way to get around it is, the best thing to do is to give politicians as little power as possible and make sure it stays in the hands of the people. You know, stop centralizing the government, which is kind of what I want. We could have passed, because we waited to pass the legislation, we could have passed to fix the broken system. What legislation would have fixed the system? No, anything that centralizes the government in any way and gives the government any more power like that. No, I'm sorry. Legislation that the left passes to de-corrupt the government doesn't do anything but corrupt the government even more. There should always be people arguing sides and making sure the government doesn't overstep its bounds, but in the face of imminent issues and reasonable proposals, what reasonable proposals? The Green New Deal wasn't reasonable. If you're talking about the Green New Deal, because you're talking about climate, and I'm sorry, there's a lot of proposals the left does that is reasonable. What do you mean by reasonable? Just because you see it as 100% doesn't mean it's reasonable. What's the reasonable proposal? I am going to shoot for real solutions, okay? Name one. If you think the military-industrial complex isn't that bad, alright. When it comes to outside, I don't know very much about that. So I don't understand the military complex that bad, seeing people we've liberated. Okay, well, I can guarantee some of the people we've liberated are glad we're there, and there's some that aren't glad we're there. So it depends on who you talk to and which countries you go to. I can guarantee that. But when it comes to foreign policy, I'm sorry, I don't know much about it. I can't get into that. So you can talk about that. I would like to have people talk to me on the channel about foreign policy. I can ask questions about it. Okay, because I don't know that much about it. I really don't. I want people on this channel that I can talk to. No one's open for it yet. I'm too small of a channel, and people who disagree with me just don't want to come on because I'm too small of a channel, and all it will do is boost me. That's all it is. And the people who agree with me, they just kind of ignore me. Because again, I'm too small of a channel. But look, foreign policy, blah blah blah. If you think the corporations should still be allowed to abuse workers' rights, okay, what workers' rights are corporations abusing right now? I'm sorry, but are you talking about we're trying to raise minimum wage? Because that is an argument, but raising minimum wage won't help these workers you're trying to protect. We can talk about that. I know about that. We can talk. You know what? The people who are raising families on minimum wage, it's their own fault. Minimum wage, it's impossible for it to be a livable wage for a family. Okay, you want to know why that is? Because when you raise minimum wage, it will automatically force other wages to raise. Because let's say there's jobs that are more important that actually require skills that pay $15 an hour, okay? Well, now minimum wage is $15 an hour. Well, those people who have skills, they're going to look at these people who don't need skills and they're just doing minimum wage jobs and they're making their money. Well, they need a raise. When they get a raise, the people up there need a raise, and so on and so forth. Everyone gets a raise. And suddenly corporations are paying more money. They can't hire as many people. That creates more unemployment. That creates more layoffs. And in order to compensate, a lot of times inflation rises. When you artificially raise wages, inflation rises, and you can't keep up with inflation. I'm sorry. You can't. Me at 19, okay? I was able, you know what my first job was? I was able to get the minimum wage in Texas is $7.25 an hour. It's the $7.25 an hour, right? That's the minimum wage in Texas. You know what my first job was? Because I looked and I worked, $8.50 an hour. I started off higher than minimum wage because I worked to get to that position. And then guess what? My wage has risen since then because I've worked to make it rise. And no, it's not because I'm a white male. No, it's because I worked for it. Because I'm working to become someone. I'm pulling myself. I live in poverty. I know what it's like to live in poverty. Don't talk to me about living in poverty. My family has been homeless multiple times. You better watch this video, you commenter. My family has been homeless multiple times. I've been homeless as a child multiple times. My mom had to go to places where not just homeless shelters to eat. There are times whenever during the summer there's these programs for people who don't have the money for children to be able to eat lunch and dinner and breakfast. Okay? Not parents can't go to the programs and eat though. Not these programs. There's some programs like churches where parents are able to eat, or like homeless shelters where parents are able to eat. But there's other programs where it's just for the children. And there were times where we couldn't get to the homeless shelters or we couldn't get to the churches, and we just had to go to these programs to feed the children. And my mom willingly didn't eat for a day, but was okay with me eating. Okay? I had to sneak and look for food to get my mom. I had to go get myself my hot dog and then see if I can sneak a hot dog out for my mom. Because yes, I know my mom was okay with it, but I wasn't. I wanted to, as a little kid, I wanted to help. I helped my mom with her work when I was a little kid. Okay? Her boss was exploiting me because I was enthusiastic and trying to get people, pass out things, get people to come get her product. Her boss, whatever her boss was, whenever she was working for an apartment, whether she was working for other places, I was there bringing people to my mom's work to get what she did, get their service. I was out there active, and then when it came to the Thicket apartments, I lived in Guns Point, by the way, too. I lived in the ghetto, and when I lived in the Guns Point apartment, the Thicket around Guns Point, I think, it was the Thicket. Not a good apartment place. Her boss there really exploited me. She promised to give me money for helping out too, but I never got money, anything really. I got maybe like $1 a week, but I would, being a little kid, give it to my mom. Yeah. I pulled myself out of poverty, and I'm going to pull myself and my family out of poverty, and I'm doing that. I'm in college, becoming a civil engineer, getting myself in a position to get a good paying job, starting a business. I'm pulling myself out of poverty. So don't tell me any of this bullcrap. The majority of people who have a family working, if you work a minimum wage $7.25 an hour job, I'm sorry, that's your fault, because even you can find $8.50 jobs even when you're without a skill set. Okay, Valero's over here paying $8.50 an hour. Jack in the Box is paying over minimum wage. I know that for a fact. Jack in the Box pays over minimum wage over here. You have to try to get a minimum wage $7.25 an hour job. If you think that we should be patient when making proposals to make healthcare public, healthcare, you mean no? Yeah, no. I'm sorry. Healthcare should not be public. That should be a conversation. You want to talk about that? We can talk about that too. We can talk about minimum wage. I can talk about that, and we can talk about healthcare if you really want to talk about it. But when it comes to I can ask you a question about foreign policy. You can talk to me. I can go nada whatever. I don't know much about it. Okay, I don't have literally. I can't say I have an opinion on it. But I have an opinion on healthcare. No, it should not be. Healthcare should not be for. We can't make single payer healthcare. That will hurt more than it will help. We can talk about that. To millions of people facing bankruptcy from mounting medical bills. Oh, wow. Like, I don't know anything about that. Well, guess what? You want to know how I helped my mom get with that? I helped her budget. I helped her figure things out. I'm helping her pay for things with my job right now. Look, yes, I'm not just paying for myself right now. I'm helping my family. Okay. And my mom's doing her best to help me because she doesn't want me to be in the same position she was, because she's a good parent, and I want to help them get out of poverty because I'm a good child. And no, healthcare, we have health problems, we can figure it out. Healthcare, when Obamacare happened, her healthcare, her prices skyrocketed. Once Obamacare, the mandatory stuff went away, guess what? Her healthcare went down. We noticed something. Whenever healthcare was more socialized, we paid more money. When it was less socialized, we paid less money. I can keep going, but for the sake of keeping this concise, I'll cut it short. The fact that there is no middle ground on these issues. I applaud partisanship, but not if it means delivering paper cuts to the growing monster of problems facing the country. I'm sorry. But you know how we can, you know how you could get to, you know how we can get socialized healthcare? If you really want single payer healthcare, well, you could have started with the 9/11 victims, because guess what? No one showed up to that. No one showed up to give 9/11, not 9/11 victims, 9/11 first responders healthcare. Okay then. Just slowly expand it. I'm sorry, but if you slowly expand it, it'll do much more than immediately doing it. There's no middle ground when it comes to slavery. Guess what? It happened over time, though. It happened. It wasn't one swing of the bat. There's no middle ground when it comes to abortion. Yes, there are issues where there is no middle ground. Okay? Like abortion. There is no middle ground for abortion. I'm sick and tired of people saying there's a middle ground. But guess what? You aren't going to sit there and make a change by trying to do one legislation to fix it all instantly. Okay? I'm sorry. I think abortion should be illegal. I should think it's wrong. But I know for a fact that abortion ain't going to be illegal in one foul swoop. It's going to take time for people to learn that. That's... Alright, there's no middle ground when it comes to abortion. But in order for abortion to end up banned, well, guess what? First, we need to work on overturning Roe v. Wade. Or to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is an unconstitutional call, by the way. First, we need to get people into position to overturn it. In order to get people into position, we need to start, well, challenging it. We need to pass laws that challenge Roe v. Wade and get people to start talking about it again, and get the judges to revisit it and to actually think about it. Because I can guarantee Roe v. Wade was on a constitutional call, and if we have judges in there that actually enforce the Constitution, Roe v. Wade wouldn't have never been called the way it was. Now, once Roe v. Wade is overturned, it will do nothing except have the right to decide whether or not abortion should be legalized, go to the states. Okay? So this abortion is still going to be extremely easy to get in places like New York and California and places like that. And it's still going to be legal in almost every single state. First, we need to start in like places like Texas, Georgia, stuff like that, Alabama, places where the majority of the citizens are pro-life. Get those to where abortion's banned, and then start having the conversation and slowly spread it. And eventually, we could get to a place where abortion is just illegal because people see how wrong it is. But I can guarantee the only way to do it is by little steps. I can guarantee if there's this legislation that was introduced today, that was put up to a vote to just ban abortion, it would never pass. I'm sorry, you put up a legislation to raise the minimum wage up to $15 in Congress right now, I can guarantee it won't pass. You can fight for it all you want, okay? This one legislation, fight for it all you want. It ain't ever gonna pass. Okay? Because you need a compromise. You need to get baby steps. I don't think you should do the $15 an hour. But if you want to get to that point, if you want to raise minimum wage the way you want, you gotta Take the baby steps first, because you ain't gonna do it the long way. You ain't gonna take the shortcuts. It's not gonna work. I'm sorry. You gotta do it the long way. That's my video response to your comment. It was a really long comment. I couldn't get to each of your points. It would take too much. So there you go.